military and national security analyst, and we have David Wormser, Middle East Affairs Analyst at the Center for Security Policy and former senior advisor to U.S. Vice President Cheney on the Middle East and strategic affairs. So good afternoon to you both. Mike, I'll start with you today. President Trump says that Iran's new leader is not going to last long if he's not approved by the United States. And the president had already disapproved of Khamenei's son, calling him a lightweight. So where do you see this going then?
Well, his son was probably already on the targeting list. He probably just sort of took a few leaps up and is at the top of the targeting list. Here's what I would caution. Whenever you remove the head of a snake, you've got to be careful about the one that's coming behind him. Khamenei's son is younger. He's more fanatical. His hatred for the U.S. and Israel is probably at a higher degree. So he wants to make some probably very aggressive moves early on in this war and strike against Israel and the U.S. So at the end of the day, we say the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. But he shouldn't last long, given the U.S. and Israelis' record so far of taking out regime leadership.
Okay, so David, let me go to you now. What do you think about this? And President Trump has said he needs to be personally involved in the selection process of a new leader.
Well, yeah, first of all, I think what Mike said at the very end, that he probably will be replaced fairly soon is already an important observation. Might be a more fanatic, or I'd say less refined than his father. I don't think more fanatic. And really, we are talking about a regime that most likely will choose an apocalyptic end rather than surrender. So who it is that rules it is probably important. It does drive home the point that there is.
Okay. All right, David, your internet is kind of iffy right now, so let me just talk to Mike while we get that fixed. So, Mike, you made the point earlier that if you cut off the snake, the head of the snake, perhaps there's another person to follow in the leader's steps. So how do we know Iran won't go back to how it was before when we have a new government? How do we make sure history doesn't repeat itself here?
Well, if you want to look at past examples, look at it this way. We took out Osama bin Laden. And usually when you hit cells like this or fanatical governments like this, they splinter, they mutate, and they often evolve worse. So, it's not that this government's going to be different. President Trump knows that. Anyone elected by this regime is going to be rejected by President Trump. The only option, and he's calling for an unconditional surrender, is somebody who's moderate, that has the people of Iran at the top of their agenda. It's no one from the IRGC. It's totally unacceptable. We will continue sustained kill chain operations, removing regime leadership while degrading what military assets remain. So nothing changes.
So why do you think President Trump says he prefers someone within Iran to govern rather than, say, Reza Pahlavi? Mike?
I think that's the ultimate goal, if the people of Iran can rise up. So look at the recent strikes on Iranians' oil. That wasn't a primary target. It was a backup. It's what we call a branch or a contingency plan, that we weren't seeing the degradation in the people, the degradation of the regime, and the people of Iran rise up. So now we're robbing them of their oil, which also indirectly robs China. So, people want results in such a quick manner. We need sustained operations for a few more weeks to continue to degrade and put the psychological pressure on this regime before there's any chance of the people of Iran trying to revolt and overthrow this government in order to reach free, democratic, and clear elections. And if that were to happen, Pahlavi is probably an answer that would come in for that interim government.
So, David, same question to you. Why do you think President Trump says he prefers someone within Iran to govern?
Well, Reza Pahlavi is a very good guy, and he's a good symbol of unity and continuity, and even a more secular-oriented Iran. But at the end of the day, he's been out of the country for 47 years. And Iran is a very complex, difficult country to understand, very many pieces, and it's changed over 45 years. So those on the ground are, first of all, paying the price for their freedom with blood. They're aware of the ground truth in Iran. They understand Iranian politics. I'm talking about a leadership we can't see yet among the opposition in Iran that's inside the country. And they're the ones who are really going to run the show afterwards. So while the Shah can be a nice symbol, he can be a transitional figure that people can focus on and provide a sense of unity. He's not really going to be the operational leader that will take over Iran and run the country for the next 5 years.
Okay, Mike, can we get your comments on what Iran's strategy here is? Because over the weekend, Gulf states reported more damage to infrastructure. What is Iran doing? Why is it pulling in so many countries?
Well, Iran cannot take Israel and the U.S. combined through direct action. They know that. And right now, you have to understand, the regime leadership is a bunch of moles. They're hiding underground through their mosaic of underground tunnels and bunkers. The best chance they have, and people think it was a foolish notion, was to hit the infrastructure, data centers, oil refineries of their partnering nations in order to put economic pressure on the globe and control the information campaign and make this campaign less popular for the world, predominantly the US and Israel, and force pressure on them that way, not through direct combat. So that is the indirect approach, and the only approach they have at this time is to affect the energy market and raising prices.
David, is Iran putting pressure on the world? What are your thoughts on its strategic objectives?
Well, I agree with Mike said, and they are putting pressure. I mean, the oil price is going up briefly to $119 a barrel is certainly a concerning element. But again, it came back down, and I think there's enough solidity in the oil markets that we're talking about a fairly temporary bubble. As far as the strategic objectives go, I think Mike outlined most of them. I'd add two more. One is they know that there are certain sensitivities in Iran that can cause even an opposition that hates them to recoil and retrench. And one of them is this idea that there may be an all-out pan-Sunni attack against the nation of Iran, a Persian Shiite nation, from whether it's Turkey, Pakistan, etc. So they in many ways want to provoke a Sunni hostility toward Iran. And the second thing is that a breakup of Iran, they know that's a very great sensitivity in Iran. So they're the ones who are putting out a lot of this stuff about the Kurds are coming in, the Azeris are coming in, the Baloch are coming in, the Arabs are coming in, and they're going to partition our country, and they're going to set us off against each other in civil war. So a lot of the attacks also are trying to provoke that and provoke the image of that so that they can change the narrative of this war in a way that terrifies the Iranian people and maybe causes them to hunker down behind them.
Now, Mike, President Trump says the decision on when to end the war with Iran will be a mutual one with Israel a little bit, he says, and it's going to take everything into account. That decision will take everything into account. What specifically, in your view, might the administration consider when it comes to ending this war?
Well, I think it goes to the objectives from the beginning, which was to strike regime leadership, to degrade their regional strike capability, which they have done. The last figures I saw were 80% of air defenses have been destroyed, and something around 60% of their strike munitions or strike capability has been destroyed. So they have achieved that objective in limiting or degrading Iran's ability to conduct regional war or regional strikes. But there's also another element to this that adds to the timeline, and that is Congress. So right now he moved forward with the War Powers Resolution, which gives him a 60-day window to conduct these operations. And then additionally, he does have a 30-day withdrawal window on top of that. So I think that time calculus is going to be weighed in on their decision alongside Israel of when they cease direct, sustained operations against Iran.
So, David, let me get your thoughts on this. Ships in the Gulf are actually disguising themselves as Chinese ships, according to reports, to avoid attacks amid this conflict. It's very interesting. Can I get your thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is something we also saw in the Straits of the Bab el-Mandeb earlier with the Houthis when they closed the straits, that they sort of came to an agreement with the Chinese to allow them through, and China actually tried to use that to create an alternative shipping model that froze out countries that weren't sympathetic to China. So it was really a grand geopolitical power play to try to undermine the power of the U.S. and its Navy and establish essentially blackmail power over nations to give in to China. And then they would get free passage. We're not there yet with the Straits of Hormuz. This is more ships themselves re-identifying as China for the moment, because Iran is not hitting Chinese ships as much, or not hitting them at all. So this could be a potential second route where China sees an opportunity to establish a maritime blackmail component over global shipping that then they can leverage for political clout elsewhere. But at the moment, right now, it's simply ships protecting themselves ad hoc. But I would watch that very carefully, that development.
Okay, so Mike, let me just end the conversation with this question to you. A service member, a seventh one, has died after being hurt during the operation. We understand this is war and this is possible, that there will be casualties and there could be more in the future. But just talk to us about how you weigh this. In a conflict, what is the dynamic between risks of human life and achieving objectives, and how do we honor those that have made sacrifices?
Well, it's a great point, and I'm sure David would agree with me. You can't decouple those. You can't decouple military operations with the loss of life. We used to go with three rules in the military. Rule number one, at war, young men die. Rule number two, you can't change rule number one. And then rule number three, somebody must always walk point. Young men die at war. And that is the cost that never sits with me well as a 20-year military veteran who deployed multiple times during the global war on terror. The only thing I can say is, this is the best trained military. This is the most lethal military. My prayers and thoughts are with the service members that are downrange doing what they're asked to do. And our thoughts and prayers are with the families of these lost soldiers. Nothing we can say will assuage their pain, but hopefully time will bring a sense of pride that their young men and women stepped up for freedom and were willing to pay the ultimate sacrifice so that we can live the way we live in America. And that just takes time, but my prayers and thoughts are with them.
Yeah, you're right, Mike. Nothing we can do can bring these service members back. But Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said those service members will for sure be avenged. Okay, let's leave it there for today. Pleasure speaking to the both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
NATO air defenses have shot down a second ballistic missile fired from Iran.